Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's talk show. My name is Senjutima. I'm a film literature expert and also the host of today's show as well. Today, we're going to do something very interesting and a little bit different. But before we get started, let us welcome five of our special guests for today.
Hello everyone, my name is Diniet and I'm a historian.
Hello everyone, my name is Ratanak and I'm a historian.
Hello everyone, my name is Vichan Ratsmai. I am a professional filmmaker.
Hello everyone, my name is Pichada and I'm a professional in reviewing film.
Hello everyone, my name is Darawat. I'm a student studying film and literature.
Thank you, everyone. It is such a great pleasure to have all of you here. When we're talking about an Asian horror genre, the film literature is mainly implied to evoke a sense of frightening, shock, and scary apprehension through characters, illustrations, themes, and situations. As we all know, Cambodia holds a very religious and superstitious beliefs in terms of these cultures and tradition. Likewise, Thailand also shares and correlates to a great extent in terms of culture and tradition. As for this, I believe that what makes Southeast Asian horror films stand out among others in the way is that we present our culture, social beliefs, and religion. So without further ado, let's get started. Today, we're looking at the power of the past in one of the most famous Thai contemporary horror films and how we as Cambodian can appreciate the culture of Thai film. So Ninit, can you help brief us a little bit on the film story and history of Mainet?
The story of Mainat is among the most famous ghost story in Thailand. In fact, it has been adapted for screen, television, and stage for generations and generations. In just a span of 60 years, there are nearly about 30 films that portray the story of Mainat. So what is the story behind Mainat exactly? Well, according to Thai folklore or legend, it says that Mainat was a pregnant young woman who lived along the Pra Canal in the central of Bangkok with her husband during the mid-1800s. Her husband is called Mark, who was later drafted into the military for war. During his absence, Nak and her unborn child unfortunately died in the middle of the childbirth process. However, when Mark returned home, he was warned by the neighbors that Nak and the baby had already passed away and became the hunted ghost. Mark, of course, didn't believe the story at first since he already saw her at home, until one day he sees Nak reveal herself as a ghost by stretching her arm beyond a human proportion to retrieve her drop line. To what he saw, he sneaked off and hid in a temple complex that is believed that ghosts cannot enter. Out of frustration, Nak has hunted her husband for eternity, and that haunted place became a shrine where people worship her spirit until today. There are also multiple different versions of the stories, which is why some movies may differ a little bit from the others.
Despite many ghost-themed movies, why do you think Mainat movies are still relevant for almost 60 years?
In my perspective, one of the reasons that it's popular for more than 60 years is because of the romance genre that the story and the movie have. As you already know, romance genre is the most popular category in terms of books or movies. And in the Mainat movies, some versions portray the undying love between Mainat and her husband, despite different entity or existence that they have. Like Mainat is a ghost, while her husband is a human, and it still does not stop their love relationship. On the other hand, according to Professor Adam Nee, he suspects that Nee tells popularity involved with not only one, but multiple themes which have been shifted over time. Moreover, he also stated that Thai tradition and history are also engaged in the story, which make a return as a source that is linked together between the themes. And for example, the story is believed to happen during the reign of King Rama IV. And in the movie, we also see a lot of cultural and traditional aspects that are still being implemented into the society. And because of the aspect, it makes my story famous and still relevant until nowadays. And talking about themes, so Thema, what are the other themes in the movie?
Yes, well, there are two important themes for our main topic for today, which is religion and multiculturalism. Religion is usually defined as a cultural complex of behaviors, moral practices, and ethics that are often related to belief and worship of gods or supernatural being. It encompasses a range of practices, including holy places, rituals, prayer, meditations, symbols, and many more. On the other hand, multiculturalism is the view of cultures, races, and ethnicities. Multiculturalism encourages acknowledgement of cultural differences to help extend a more open-minded view amongst the different groups of people, and it's also a concept of dispelling the negative stereotypes as well. So let's move on to some scenes that illustrates the theme. We are currently discussing. First of all, let's talk about the scene in the pagoda. Now, what do you think about the celebration scene in pagoda?
Well, as we can see, one of the early scenes in the film seems to have a dancing party at the pagoda, which shows that it is some sort of religious festival that people go to the pagoda to celebrate. During the celebration, there are many activities such as national dance performance, traditional dance, as well as some fun activities such as national dance performance, traditional dance, as well as some fun activities to play. Similarly, in Cambodia, we also have these kind of activities too, such as during the Khmer New Year, or there's another event which Cambodians call Bon Pum, which takes place in pagoda. During this event, as soon as we enter the pagoda, we could hear the sound of traditional instruments echoed around. As we go in, we could see people playing Khmer traditional games such as tug of war, we call it Tieng Prot, Bong Kung, which played by two teams, boys and girls. And last but not least, Lot Bao in English, we could call it the rice bag racing. And the differences I see between Thailand and Cambodia is that we have different festivals, even though the celebration is quite similar. And the traditional music instrument, dances, and traditional games are also different. However, I don't think it is much of a difference.
That is very insightful and also made me feel nostalgia. On the other hand, from my understanding, there's also some book that talk about Minat film, and it has mentioned that there's a lot of Minat versions. Do you mind telling me more about it and how it's different from the film Minat?
Glad that you asked. So there is a book called Reconnecting Mana by Adam Nee. In this book, it has mentioned one of the most famous as well as successful Mana films of all times, and that is called Pima, which was created in 2013. I noticed that in this book, most of the stories are focusing on Mana and her husband Ma, unlike in the film, which has a lot more scene than in the book, such as the early scene in the film that I had mentioned before, which is the dancing at pagoda. This scene has not been mentioned in the book, not only in Pima story, but also in other stories as well. But from what I can tell is that Pima is much more heavily emphasized on the figure of Ma, who is her husband rather than Mena.
Thank you, Nat. That is a very well-explained perception. On the other hand, another scene that has caught to my attention is a love potion that turns into a ghost possession. As we can see in the movie, Nat was a very beautiful girl in town, and Matt was not the only guy who fell in love with Nat. There's also another man who's also attracted to Nat's beauty as well. He even claimed that he would do anything he could to get the girl he wanted. And that night, he went to a rich man and asked for a love potion. He said he cannot eat or sleep and just cannot stop thinking about her. However, instead of the love potion, the rich man gave a dark matter ghost potion instead. The potion was supposed to be on Nat, but instead it was thrown to another wrong girl. After that, the girl who received the potion began acting weird and show a very unusual and psychotic behavior. She dressed very messily and started to talk and dance to everyone in the town. That's when everyone realized she was being possessed by a ghost, because no one in their right mind would do anything like that. One night, she had a nightmare about her being a ghost. She suddenly woke up screaming and praising very weirdly and then suddenly disappeared. When her relatives found her, she committed a suicide by hanging her neck to the roof.
Wow, that is a really interesting switch. And talking about ghosts and witchcraft, could you explain to us more about the spirit possession?
Well, the concept of spirit possession exists in many different cultures and religions, and this also includes Buddhism. There are a wide variety of deities and spirits that has been incorporated in the Buddhist world. As we can see in the film scene, I also mentioned earlier, it is a clear evidence that the girl that wrongly received the love potion in the medium was also absolutely possessed by a spirit of evil, or what we call ghosts. She was completely under direct control of an external supernatural power and shows unusual symptoms, weird movements, uttering disconnect, and strange speech. Furthermore, it shows that there were also practices of black magic or dark spell that was also implemented during that society era, which was the old witch man who gave the dark matter ghost potion instead of the love potion to them. It is believed that black magics are forbidden in the Theravada traditions. However, these type of people who practice this type of magic are considered in the dark world, where they have the ability to communicate to another world of death, make spell potions and spirits practices. In which, as I am a Cambodian and a person who believe in Buddhism myself, also think that there are also this type of practices and adherence in Cambodia as well. In this context, I can appreciate the Thailand culture and tradition practices because we do share the same religions and very similar practices in terms of these matters.
Wow, thank you, Tema, for a very interesting input. Since we are talking about ghost possession and vengeful horror ghost storyline, I would like to mention the book Reincarnation of Maynak by Professor Adam Nee. In his book, he also mentioned about another remake version of Ghost Nut legend called Yannak. This film is focusing on vengeful ghost revenge and a very scary horror genre rather than focusing on love loyalty that film Maynak was about. The movie Yannak is also a bit different from any other remake version of Ghost Nut legend. Because in this film, instead of the main character named Nat and Mat, the main character of Yannak movie named are Nat and Mat. The film timeline was set in the modern contemporary world with the concept of filming within film. It means that there's another movie shooting inside the actual movie of Yannak. In the movie, the protagonist Nat was an emotionally and mentally unstable woman who was picked by the director as the star for a new version of Ghost Nut movie. Seeing that Nat is a beautiful woman, the director actually drugged her and raped her. Later on in the film, Nat starts to fall in love with her co-star who played as Matt on the film set. Knowing that Matt is not in love with her, Nat goes to the shrine of Ghost Nut in real life, asking for love, possession, and bonding with Matt. As a result of her wish, the ghost on Nat start to possess in Nat's body. As Nat was possessed by vengeful ghosts on Nat, she killed all the filming crew, including the director who raped her with her supernatural and dark magic power. Then, after Matt rejected the relationship with Nat, she lured him into the film set where she managed to remove his heart so that she can verify its faithfulness to her. This movie takes a different path from any other version of Ghost Nut legend.
Thank you, Ismail, for your insightful information about the story of Yannak, which is a remake version of Ghost Nut. After listening to your explanation about Yannak's story in the book, I think that even if it is a remake version, I doubt if there are any connection between the original film and this remake version. So do you mind telling us more about the similarities and differences between the film and the story in the book that you have mentioned?
Well, thank you, Ratana. Based on the work of Professor Adam Nee, we can clearly see the different and similarity concept between Maynak movie and the remake version of Yannak. The similarity between these two films is the representative of Nat goes as the victim of the wrongful act of the bad guy. In Maynak film, Nat was portrayed as the victim because she died because of failing to deliver her baby. Moreover, after she was buried, a group of bad guys stole her unborn baby from her stomach as the holy amulet, or known as Kon Kro in Khmer. Likewise, as described in the story of Yannak earlier, Nat is the protagonist in the movie and she is symbolized as ghost of Nat legend. She was the victim as a child, abused since she was young. She was also raped by both her stepfather and the director. This clearly points out that both protagonists has the same victimization factor. However, as I said earlier in the film, this film is very different from any other version of Ghost Nut legend. Professor Adam Nee also agreed with this. He quoted the following sentence in his paper. What more strongly differentiates it from 1999 version is its lack of clear definition of what Nat as a figure actually stands for, and by implication, and the corresponding Thai national values she represents. In fact, My Nat movie and another remake version of Go Nat, protagonist Nat was normally represent the symbol of faithful love and strong loyalty that she had for her husband and child. But in Jannat movie, the status or value of those devotions doesn't portray much in that character. This is due to her mentality unstable issue and the complexity of her trauma past that lead her to confusion of what is love. Even though in some scene she show her love affection to Matt, but the relationship wasn't mutual. This is a type of toxic and dangerous possessual relationship which is very different from the love notion of Nat and Matt in the original story. Nat also end up killing Matt in the film as well. This is another key difference between Nat movie and another remake version of the story as well. I think from my perspective as the filmmaker, Nat movie has done a great job since it is a low budget movie. The quality is relatively acceptable compared to the cost. And I really appreciate that the director of this movie took a different approach from any other remake version.
Thank you, Resmay. That was indeed a fascinating explanation. I also heard about these traditions in Cambodia as well. But now, would you mind sharing the similarities of the Toyol ceremony?
Well, the Toyol ceremony has something to do with religions. Toyol is a 4 or 3 months old unborn baby who must be removed from the mother. The baby side is of a bare hands. To be a Toyol doll, the baby must be rolled and encoded with evil magic to summon the baby spirit. When the baby soul has been placed within the Toyol doll, the owner of the doll can be continued the ceremony. The owner is responsible for the Toyol doll. In exchange, the doll will guard the owner 24 hours a day. When a Toyol doll detects that something terrible is going to happen, it may whisper in the owner's ears. However, if the owner elects to care the doll would bring the owner terrible luck. Every part of the world has its unique method of the performing in the Toyol ceremony, also known as the Voodoo, which is the mix of the white and black magic. However, the Toyol ceremony is more well known in Southeast Asia, which is regions has its own unique style while following same basic instructions. Furthermore, I will simply discuss how the Toyol ceremonies were performed and how similar the dark ceremony are between Cambodia and Thailand. According to the Manat film, when a Zaman performs love magic, the Toyol doll assists in the Zaman in successfully completing attachment. Toyol dolls are admired in Cambodia, Thailand, and even in national where black magic in practice. Whenever the owner of the Toyol doll are evil or a good individual, they can still predict the future and perform any dark magic trick. For example, Rasmat is a rapper in Cambodia. It's well known his mentor of the roping without being caught. As a result, Cambodians think that Rasmat has a Toyol doll that defends him and warns him when danger is near. To conclude, both Cambodian and Thailand have exactly similar religions and historical background, as well as black magic, since the framework performing dark magic has passed down from the national generation to generation, and it's still working. That is all from me. So, Mr. Watt, what do you think about the ceremony for those who pass away?
Thank you, Ms. Pichda. That was a very interesting. So, well, in Buddhism, when one passes away, a proper step must be taken to ensure that they make safe and successful transit into the afterlife. funeral ritual, including burial and cremation, have been practiced among Southeast Asian countries such as Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, etc. However, there is this common belief which have rooted since the ancient time. They believe that the spirit could not pass to the life circle with an unresolved feeling, resentment, guilt, anger, or any other feeling, unless they have been released by a ritual that are mostly performing by monks. So based on the film My Nat, when Nat passed away, her spirit did not go to the afterlife. After her body had been buried, she remained as a ghost and haunted everyone in the village. People in the village were terrified of her presence, even shamans and monks. In Thai Haunted by Professor Adam Lee, he had mentioned that Nat repeatedly ignored the injunction of the local head monk, whose ritual seemed utterly irrelevant to her. So in order to cast the bad spirit of Ghost Nat away, another ritual has been performed. This ritual is knowingly as another resort to approach a vengeful spirit who refuse to pass to the afterlife, is to destroy their medium. The medium that I mentioned could be anything that the spirit attached to. In that case, her medium was the remaining of her body, her bone. And that is the reason why there's a scene where her coffin has been burned near the end of the film. In my opinion, I believe that even her remains are not there anymore, but her spirit is there and becoming a legend. And there's also a shrine which Thai people still pay respect until nowadays. This has shown a lot of similarity between Cambodia and Thailand in traditional ceremony and ritual, because all of those beliefs have been passed down from our ancestors and is also part of our religion and history. Now my part has come to an end. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, so this has finally come to an end of our session. I believe that My Nat horror film is a very great and popular movie. Her name and stories are heard to many parts of the world, and I'm so glad that she decided to resolve and end peacefully onwards. I really appreciate everyone's time for being here today. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Goodbye.